The moment she entered the will reading, she was dismissed. A gray linen dress, a faded cardigan, and simple flats were all it took to elicit scorn from a room filled with meticulously styled appearances, their smiles seeming insincere. A man wearing a gold tie initiated the remarks, a mixture of laughter and mockery in his tone. "Is that the maid?" A young woman subtly inclined her head and murmured to her companion, probably a distressed former paramour seeking compensation. Ivy Clark remained near the rear of the room. She remained silent, showing no reaction, merely adjusting the strap of the cloth bag she held. In their eyes, she was merely a shadow, an outsider who had entered a space intended for blood, legacy, and status. However, they were mistaken. The woman they had just humiliated was the legal wife of the man they were all gathered to inherit from. And today's reading of the will was a test she had assisted in creating. The Thorne estate stretched across a wooded hill, its stone walls and iron gates forming a fortress against the world. Inside the grand hall, the scent of old money mingled with polished oak, leather, and the subtle fragrance of roses from vases that cost more than most people's rent. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, capturing the April light and distributing it across a gathering of 42. Relatives, investors, advisors, and assistants. Each one was dressed to assert their position in Logan Thorne's empire. Elegant suits, silk dresses, and diamonds that sparkled with each movement filled the room. Guests mingled, sipping champagne, their expressions of sympathy seemingly as practiced as their smiles. Ivy entered discreetly, her footsteps barely audible on the marble floor. She selected a spot in the back corner, close to a large window that showcased the hazy hills beyond. Her dress was understated, comfortably loose, the gray fabric worn soft with age. A pale blue cardigan, faded with time, slipped gently from one shoulder. Ivy's dark hair was styled in a low bun, with a few strands escaping to soften her features, high cheekbones, hazel eyes that seemed to observe everything, and lips that remained composed even when others might have retorted. At 36, Ivy possessed a quiet beauty that resonated, like a memorable melody. Preston Thorne, Logan's second cousin, rested against a mahogany table, his Rolex gleaming as he smirked. Indeed, how did the cleaning staff gain access? His voice resonated, intentional, prompting amusement from a group of cousins close by. Marissa, Preston's sister, wearing a crimson dress, flipped her hair and remarked, "Perhaps she's here to dust the will before it's read." More laughter followed, brittle and pointed, like shattering glass. Across the room, a younger woman, Clara, a niece with a tech startup and a TikTok following, subtly pushed her friend, Elise, a former assistant to Logan's CFO. "Bet she's one of his charity cases," Clara whispered, loud enough for Ivy to hear. "Or a mistress he forgot about," Clara continued, looking at her bag as if she were carrying her lunch. Elise chuckled quietly, taking a subtle photo with her phone. "This is going on my story," she said. Clara's fingers quickly moved across her phone, a smile spreading as she wrote a caption for the photo she'd just taken of Ivy. Logan's charity case interrupted the will reading. "Guess she thinks thrift store chic gets her $1 billion, she said, making sure Ivy heard. The people nearby chuckled, some reaching for their phones to approve and distribute the post, which was quickly becoming popular online. Numerous comments appeared, with strangers referring to Ivy as insignificant and needy, their words a digital attack that reflected the room's disapproval. Ivy remained still, her hazel eyes reflecting the light from Clara's screen. She remained silent. Her quietness appeared to encourage their enjoyment, as if her restraint was a test they needed to overcome. Elise, a friend of Clara's, moved closer, her voice laced with what sounded like sympathy. It was a sad situation. She didn't realize she had become a meme. The laughter increased, a wave of unkindness that reduced Ivy to something less than a person, her self-respect a focus for their mockery. Ivy's fingers briefly pressed into her cloth bag, a simple item carefully made, with no visible branding. She avoided looking at Clara or Elise, ignored Preston's taunt and Marissa's barb. She remained still, her breathing regular, her gaze fixed on the vacant chair at the front where the lawyer would sit. To them, her silence appeared as weakness, a sign of exclusion, They failed to perceive the strength beneath, the way her stillness commanded a room without effort. The crowd swelled as more people arrived. A previous investor, Gerald Hayes, wearing a pinstripe suit, commented to his wife, "Logan always had people around. This one doesn't belong here." His wife, adorned with emeralds, concurred, her gaze assessing Ivy's attire. "She lacks refinement," she stated, her voice barely audible. "Her mere presence is mortifying to the family." A relative, Trevor in a velvet blazer, called out, "Hey, dear, the kitchen is over there." He indicated a side entrance, smiling as his companions applauded him. A woman, Lillian, adorned with pearls and a descendant of ants, expressed her disapproval with a cluck of her tongue. She suggested someone should guide her out prior to the lawyer's arrival. She felt it was disrespectful to Logan's memory. Marissa, in a crimson dress that moved with each step, approached Ivy. Her heels made clicking sounds like a timer winding down. She halted close to Ivy, appearing taller, and her perfume was strong. "You're in the wrong place, darling," she stated, her voice clear and audible to everyone present. She extended her arm, brushing Ivy's cardigan as if it were discarded, her nails lightly touching the material with clear disapproval. "This isn't a soup kitchen. You should leave before you cause further embarrassment." The onlookers observed, a few smiling, others murmuring, but no one intervened. Ivy's hands remained firm on her bag, yet the intrusion into her personal space felt like an offense, Marissa's proximity a deliberate warning. A relative close by whispered, "She's got some nerve staying," and the room's agreement regarding Marissa's actions was evident, their quietness sharing in Ivy's distress. Ivy remained still. Her gaze shifted quickly to the security camera in the corner, its red light blinking consistently. She was aware it was active, transmitting to a secure server only 2 individuals could view. One was her, the other wasn't present. Not yet. As Grayson began to read, Trevor quietly moved behind Ivy, the fabric of his velvet blazer softly contacting the wall as he murmured to his companions, "Observe this." He retrieved a cocktail napkin from a table close by, wrote charity case with a Sharpie, and discreetly placed it in Ivy's bag while she was unaware. The room observed, quiet amusement rippling through the space as individuals indicated the note, its prominent letters marking Ivy. Clara took another photograph, struggling to contain her laughter, while Elise murmured, "She's a walking joke now." Ivy remained oblivious, her attention on Grayson, but the crowd's excitement was palpable, their amusement a painful blow to her sense of self. Trevor relaxed against his chair, smiling, as Lillian commented, "She deserves it for appearing like that." The prank was not only unkind, but also a performance, intended to make Ivy appear foolish for simply being present among them. The lawyer, Arthur Grayson, arrived promptly at 10 a.m. Dressed in a gray suit, his briefcase felt substantial with its contents. He appeared to be in his 60s, his face marked by years of managing wealth and conflicts. A stillness fell over the room as he placed his briefcase on the table, opened it, and retrieved a single, sealed envelope. There was no unnecessary display or introduction. He straightened his glasses and surveyed the attendees, his eyes briefly lingering on Ivy, a moment that disturbed Preston, who furrowed his brow and murmured to Marissa, "What was that?" Gerald Hayes stood, the fabric of his pinstripe suit straining as he gestured toward Ivy, his voice resonant like a judge announcing a ruling. "This woman is a fraud," he stated, his finger shaking with anger. "Logan would never permit someone like her close to his estate. She's here to deceive us. That's undeniable." The room filled with murmurs of concurrence, heads moving in agreement, gazes fixed on Ivy as if she were a criminal apprehended in the act. His wife, her emeralds sparkling, added, "She likely possesses a false identification within that worn handbag." The accusation lingered, casting Ivy as a criminal in their perception, her presence unwelcome and offensive. Ivy's gaze remained unwavering, yet the burden of their judgment felt immense, each word a painful blow meant to expose her. The crowd's whispers intensified, their anger a display for one another, Ivy's silence only intensifying their desire to condemn her. Grayson began, "We are gathered to read the last will and testament of Logan Alexander Thorne, which was executed 3 years ago and confirmed as genuine. A wave of whispers filled the room. 3 years. Logan had disappeared only 6 months prior, his private jet having been lost over the Pacific. There was no debris, no remains, just an absence that generated news and avarice. Many believed he was deceased, many hoped so. Preston adjusted his tie, his smirk reappearing. Let's proceed, then. Who receives the inheritance? Clara moved closer, her perfectly shaped nails clicking against her phone, already composing her celebratory message. Gerald folded his arms, voicing concerns about stock options. Lillian held her pearls, confiding in Trevor about the summer house in Nice. Ivy remained motionless, her bag now on the floor. She observed Grayson's hands as he opened the seal, the breaking of the wax echoing in the hushed room. They moved closer, their breaths light, their gazes intense. This was the moment. The instant they had prepared for, plotted for, traveled across continents for. Logan's empire, encompassing tech patents, real estate, and a biotech firm valued at $90 billion, was potentially available, or so it appeared. Grayson opened the document, his voice calm yet measured, every word like a stone placed in quiet water. I, Logan Alexander Thorne, being of sound mind, issue this as my final will. To my family, colleagues, and associates, I bequeath only this statement. Wealth exposes character, it does not define worth. The room fell silent. Preston's smile wavered. Clara's phone moved slightly in her grasp. Gerald's jaw clenched, his wife's emerald seeming surprisingly weighty. Surely this couldn't be accurate, Grayson stated, appearing calm. All my assets, company shares, properties, accounts, and intellectual rights, are bequeathed to one person. The individual who stood by me for no reason other than love. The person who never inquired about my net worth, never sought my name for status. My wife, Ivy. A sharp, jagged gasp filled the room as heads turned, searching for the person behind the announcement. Preston let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Wife. Logan wasn't married. Marissa's hand covered her mouth, her red fingernails contrasting with her whitening skin. Clara's eyes narrowed, looking towards Elise, who silently questioned, "What the hell?" Gerald pushed back his chair, the sound scratching against the floor. This is absurd. Logan never spoke of a wife. It must be a deception. Someone has fabricated this. Lillian gripped Trevor's arm, her voice high-pitched. She's not here, right? She asked, referring to a possible gold digger they hadn't met, someone attempting to take what belonged to them. Grayson raised a hand, calming them. The will is valid, it was signed and notarized. We have supporting documents, including a marriage certificate, photographs, and personal letters, all available for verification. He retrieved a folder from his briefcase and opened it, displaying a photograph. It was Logan. He appeared younger, laughing, with his arm around Ivy, who was wearing a simple white dress. 7 years prior, a courthouse stood silent. Suddenly, the atmosphere shattered. Preston struck the table forcefully, declaring, "This is insanity. Who is she?" Clara rose, her phone unnoticed, demanding, "Where's this Ivy? Show her." Trevor responded with a scornful expression, suggesting, probably some con artist hiding in Belize. Marissa's voice, sharp with anger, pierced the noise, asking, "If she's real, why is she not here? Too ashamed to show her face?" Ivy advanced. The action was subtle, measured, resembling the shifting of a tide. She moved across the room, her footsteps silent, yet every gaze followed her. Her cardigan shifted gently, and her linen dress shimmered in the light. She paused near Grayson, maintaining a poised stance and a tranquil expression. A simple cloth bag rested on her shoulder, reflecting her understated nature. The quiet was profound. Grayson began to speak, then stopped, his gold tie appearing overly bright. Clara's cheeks reddened, a previous image seeming to glow from her phone. Gerald retreated into his chair, his wife's emeralds appearing less vibrant now. Lillian's pearls appeared to constrict her. Her hand paused in the middle of a movement. Grayson gestured toward Ivy, a subtle acknowledgement in his gaze. "Mrs. Thorne," he stated, delivering the folder to her. She accepted it without a visible reaction, her fingers firm as she opened it, observing the photograph, her lips curving slightly, as if recalling the occasion it captured. Then she shut the folder and turned to address the assembled group. "I did not come for the funds," she declared, her voice distinct and calm, reminiscent of a chime through mist. "I came to understand your character. Who amongst you treated Logan like a person, rather than a financial asset? Who would grieve him, not his wealth?" She stopped, her hazel eyes moving across the assembly, observing each individual with ease. "You have revealed yourselves for who you are." Preston spoke, his voice trembling but resolute. "Are you suggesting you are his spouse? You?" He indicated her dress, her cardigan, his laughter strained. "Logan Thorne married to this? No intention to be rude, madam, but your attire suggests you purchase clothing from second-hand shops." Ivy did not flinch. "I do," she stated plainly. Logan didn't mind. He appreciated me for who I am, disregarding my clothes or possessions. "Can any of you claim the same?" Clara scoffed, crossing her arms. "That's a convincing performance, but I'm skeptical. If you are his wife, what evidence do you have? A photograph isn't sufficient. Anyone can create a false image." Sounds of concurrence spread through the room, encouraging those present. Gerald affirmed, his voice prominent again. "She's correct. We require further validation. Witnesses, official papers, something tangible." Grayson reopened his briefcase, retrieving a bundle of documents. A marriage license, dated 7 years ago, was signed by both parties and 2 witnesses, a nurse named Sarah Ellis and a librarian, Michael Reed. There were personal letters from Logan to Ivy, handwritten, and verified through forensic analysis. Bank records demonstrated joint accounts maintained privately at Logan's request. He paused, retrieving a small USB drive. The drive contained video footage from their wedding. He inserted the drive into a laptop on the table, and a screen on the wall flickered to life. A hush fell over the room as a blurred video appeared on the screen. Courthouse steps, Logan in a plain suit, Ivy in a white dress, both of them smiling as they shared a kiss. Sarah and Michael stood close, applauding. The timestamp aligned with the marriage certificate. The resistance in the room dissipated, faces losing color, eyes shifting to Ivy, who observed the footage with a subdued pain in her expression. Marissa rose to her feet, her voice shaking with anger. "This is a fabrication. You orchestrated this, correct? Intending to, what, make us appear unfavorable. You're insignificant. Logan would never choose someone like you." Her words caused pain, yet Ivy's expression remained unchanged. She allowed Marissa's anger to linger without a reply. Then she spoke, her voice now icier, with a precision that could wound. "You are correct about one aspect. This was orchestrated, not to deceive you, but to evaluate you. To determine if any of you were concerned enough to inquire about my identity before you ridiculed me. To see if you would respect Logan's legacy, or simply grasp for his fortune." She advanced towards the assembled group, her aura dominating the space. "You have failed. Every single one of you." Trevor chuckled, now visibly anxious. "Test? Is this some kind of game show? Surely you can't be serious." But his voice faltered as Ivy's gaze locked onto his, unwavering and resolute. She retrieved a small remote from her bag. "Logan is not dead," she stated, choosing her words with precision. "He is alive, and he has been observing you throughout this entire period." She activated the remote, and a monitor on the wall sprang to life. Within a room, shadowed and quiet, Logan Thorne was seated. Aged 42, possessing a lean build and dark hair touched with gray, his blue eyes remained keen. He reclined in a chair, his demeanor composed yet firm, reminiscent of a judge assessing individuals. A camera feed displayed a live connection with a timestamp visible. It read April 15, 2025, 10:32 a.m. Suddenly, the room erupted with gasps, shouts, and expressions of disbelief. Preston recoiled, his tie disarranged. Clara's phone slipped from her hand, the screen fracturing against the marble. Gerald's wife held his arm tightly, murmuring, "No, it's not possible." Lillian's pearls broke, pearls rolling across the floor. Logan's voice emerged from the monitor, deep and strong. "You believed I was gone. You thought this was your opportunity to divide up my life as if it were a cake. But I've been present, observing, hearing every word, each scornful expression, every deception. His eyes moved, seeming to look past the camera towards Ivy. She cautioned me you would reveal your true nature. She was correct. Ivy's lips flickered, almost a smile, as she addressed the assembled group, her voice calm. Logan's aircraft incident was staged, a maneuver to assess allegiance and identify betrayals. You arrived promptly, adorned in your finest attire, eager to assert claims you did not possess. However, this was not about finances, it concerned uncovering the truth. The doors of the grand hall swung open, and Logan entered. He was genuine, substantial, his presence impactful. His suit was understated, without a tie, his shoes showing signs of his journey. A path opened as he moved through the room, the murmurs fading, the confidence disappearing. He paused near Ivy, his hand lightly touching hers, providing a sense of stability. She raised her gaze to him, her expression relaxing for the first time, and he inclined his head, a wordless understanding. He turned to address the room, his tone compassionate and natural. Ivy orchestrated this, the will, the reading, the cameras, everything. She wanted to understand your character when you believed you were unobserved, who would treat an unknown with respect, whose actions would be kind, whose concern would extend to me, irrespective of my financial status. He hesitated, his gaze traveling across the assembly, fixing upon each individual. None of you earned his favor. Logan's eyes settled on Preston, the man who had initially derided Ivy, his gold tie now appearing ostentatious and restrictive. You insulted my wife, Logan stated, his voice subdued yet intensely threatening, each word penetrating the room's astonished quiet. You chuckled as she remained standing, isolated, allowing you to reveal your character. Did you believe I wouldn't notice? Preston recoiled, his earlier confidence vanished, his fingers awkwardly adjusting his tie as if it offered protection. The onlookers observed, motionless, as Logan approached, his stature imposing even in his plain suit. You are not family, Preston, you are a parasite, and I will no longer sustain you. A guard materialized beside Preston, his hold steady, and as Preston departed, his objections were lost in the reverberation of Logan's statements. The room felt lighter, justice a tangible force, Ivy's honor restored with each step of Preston's disgrace. Preston attempted to speak, his voice hoarse. Logan, please, we didn't know. She didn't say anything. Logan's gaze snapped to him, cold and final. She shouldn't have had to. You saw a woman you didn't recognize, and your first reaction was to tear her down. That's not family, that's not loyalty. Clara stepped forward, desperate now. We're sorry, okay? We didn't mean it. Ask her, Logan, ask her to forgive us. Her eyes moved to Ivy, as if begging, but Ivy's expression was unyielding. Her silence felt more condemning than any words. Logan refused to agree. It's not a matter of forgiveness. It's about accountability. He gestured towards Grayson, who produced another document. This is a supplemental clause to the will, taking effect now. Anyone who addressed Ivy disrespectfully today, identified in security camera recordings, audio recordings, or through testimony, will be disinherited. No shares, no properties, no communication, the matter is concluded. Preston began reading names, his voice sharp and authoritative.
Preston Thorne, Marissa Thorne, Clara Evans, Gerald Hayes, Lilian Ward, Trevor Lang.
Each name was announced with force, causing faces to fall, protests to erupt, then subside as security personnel intervened. Preston shouted, "You can't do this. I'm blood." But a guard gently took his arm, guiding him toward the exits. Marissa followed, her crimson dress flowing, her sobs audible. Clara held her damaged phone, quietly murmuring, "This can't be happening." As she was being escorted out, Clara's face lost its color as Logan turned to her, his gaze piercing her like glass. "You turned my wife into a meme," he stated, his voice even but intense, believing your followers would applaud you. "But falsehoods don't endure," he continued. He gestured toward Grayson, who activated his laptop, and Clara's phone vibrated intensely in her hand. Her social media accounts, her empire of influence, were collapsing publicly, posts deleted, followers decreasing by thousands, sponsors severing ties with remarkable efficiency. "You're banned from my companies, my properties, my life," Logan stated as a guard took her arm, her damaged phone falling to the floor. The crowd's gasps were a chorus of awe, the room charged with the excitement of justice. Ivy stood beside Logan, her silence holding weight as Clara's digital influence weakened, her past mistreatment of Ivy now contributing to her downfall. Gerald's wife attempted to protest, her jewels sparkling, but Logan interrupted her. "You insulted my wife, and you are no longer welcome here." They departed, their heads lowered, as onlookers dispersed and guards emptied the room. Lillian's scattered pearls made a brittle sound beneath the footsteps, a suitable conclusion to her arrogance. As the doors shut, just a few remained, 3 individuals who had remained quiet, who hadn't laughed or sneered. Sarah Ellis, the nurse from the wedding video, now older, her eyes filled with relief. Michael Reed, the librarian, who had nodded to Ivy upon her entry, acknowledging her discreetly. And Anna, a groundskeeper who had offered Ivy water prior to the reading, without hesitation. Logan turned to them, his voice gentler now. "You observed her, you didn't judge, that's what family signifies." He looked at Ivy, his hand finding hers again. "You were right about all of it." Ivy's gaze lingered on the empty chairs, the spilled champagne, the broken pearls. "I didn't want to be right," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I wanted them to be better." She faced the 3 who remained, her eyes warm now. "Thank you for seeing me." Logan squeezed her hand, his voice low for her alone. "You are more than they'll ever understand." A slight, genuine smile touched her lips as she moved closer, the fabric of her cardigan lightly against his sleeve. The room was still, the vultures having departed, the truth revealed. Ivy did not require the money, the estate, or the empire. She had never desired them. What she had wanted was Logan, living, complete, belonging to her. And now, with the world reduced to its essence, they remained together, resolute. The hills beyond shone green beneath the April sky, and the cameras ceased blinking, their purpose fulfilled. If this story resonated with you, please show your appreciation with a like, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it, and subscribe for more stories that explore difficult subjects with hope. Your support helps ensure these stories continue to be told. The moment she entered the publishing office, she was dismissed. Her coat was of frayed wool, her shoes worn, and she held a thick manuscript bound with tape, the pages already yellowing. The receptionist scrutinized her, raising an eyebrow as if detecting an unpleasant odor. "You're here to submit a story? Handwritten?" An editor, with slicked-back hair, barely glanced at the title before laughing. "A boy wizard living under the stairs? This seems like a low-budget Tolkien adaptation." The room erupted in laughter. A staffer even picked up the manuscript, displayed it, and quipped, "Another legend, handwritten, ideal for the recycling bin." Then they threw it directly in front of her. Emily knelt, recovered her manuscript, carefully smoothed a torn corner, and turned away, refusing to lower her head. She offered only a small nod, as if they were the ones being turned down. They simply didn't understand. What they discarded would become a literary phenomenon for an entire generation. And the woman they just mocked would reshape the world. Emily Brooks resided in a small flat above a bustling chip shop in London, a dwelling characterized by the scent of grease, and a radiator that rattled like it was performing for a horror film. She was 31, a single mother to a 6-year-old daughter Lily, who slept on a mattress in the corner while Emily wrote at a shaky kitchen table. Each day began at dawn, balancing toast and crayons for Lily, followed by a quick trip to drop her off at school before going to the cafe close to King's Cross Station. The cafe was a somewhat run-down establishment with greasy food, chipped mugs, and a jukebox that had been broken since the 90s. Despite its appearance, it served as her sanctuary. There, in a corner booth, she would open her notebook and write, her pen creating a world where a boy named Harry Potter lived under a staircase, dreaming of magic. Her attire was unassuming, a pale sweater, a skirt mended at the bottom, shoes so dilapidated that the soles detached during rain. Her dark hair was frequently disheveled, secured with a rubber band, with strands escaping as if possessing a will of their own. She remained indifferent. She wasn't writing to gain recognition. She was writing for Lily, for herself, for the children she observed at the library who possessed only stories to find solace in. The manuscript, Harry Porter and the Glass Owl, represented her deepest emotions, a story of a boy who was overlooked, who discovered magic in a world that disregarded him, who ultimately chose to believe in himself. Each word was meticulously handwritten, each page a testament to her dedication, with pages taped together after the binding failed. Emily submitted it to 12 publishers. She had spent her remaining £20 on postage, carefully wrapping each copy in brown paper, her hands trembling as she closed the envelopes. She hadn't anticipated a positive response, merely an opportunity, but the rejections arrived quickly, each one sharply disappointing. Do not attempt to write fantasy if you lack understanding of the world, one letter stated, bearing the signature of a senior editor at Crownwell Press, Martin Hale. A woman writing magic? No thank you, another declared, the words written in red ink by a junior editor named Clara Voss. A note, this tone belongs in a child's after-school diary, not a bookstore, came from someone at Regent House. It was written by Simon Trent, a literary agent. His name was stamped in gold on the letterhead. Emily read each one quietly, keeping her face calm. Then she put them away in a drawer. She didn't cry. She returned to the cafe and continued writing. While at a local bookshop where Emily occasionally looked at books, she overheard a literary scout from Pinnacle Books, Clara Voss, talking with the owner. You won't believe the audacity of this woman, Clara stated, her voice laced with disdain. Some single mom, appearing disheveled, believes she's created wizardry. I instructed my team to discard it to prevent it from consuming more space. The owner laughed, briefly looking at Emily, who was examining a used paperback nearby, oblivious to being discussed. Likely another sentimental narrative seeking sympathy, he remarked, speaking loudly enough for her to overhear. A customer interjected, a smirk playing on his face. What's she going to do? Cast a spell to get published? The others chuckled, glances darting towards Emily's worn skirt and unkempt hair. She remained looking down, her fingers following the book's spine, but the atmosphere shifted, their comments a burden she carried as she returned to her cafe booth. Her pen wavered a little as she wrote, yet she persisted. Her story would be her reply. Emily was seated in her cafe booth on a rainy afternoon, her notebook open, when a group of publishing interns from Regent House entered, their laughter echoing through the space. One noticed her and nudged his friends, saying, "Look, it's the wizard lady, still writing her kitty stories." He approached her, peering at her pages and asking, "What's this, Harry, what's it? Gonna make you rich, huh, love?" His friends laughed, and one mimicked her pen strokes with exaggerated flourishes. "Bet she thinks bookstores are begging for this drivel," another remarked, speaking loud enough for other patrons to hear. A waitress, joining in the derision, placed Emily's coffee down with force, adding, "Dreamers like you clog up the place." The interns quickly took a selfie with her visible in the background and posted it online with the caption, "Hatch Fantasy Fail. Single mom's sad hobby." Emily's hand paused, ink smudging slightly, but her face remained composed, her gaze fixed on the page. The cafe felt smaller, their unkindness a storm she endured quietly, her story her only support. The most difficult experience came from Crownwell Press. Emily had found the strength to hand-deliver her manuscript in person, hoping a direct meeting might influence them. She stood in their modern office, all glass and chrome, holding her pages. Martin Hale, the editor who had rejected her by mail, was present, accompanied by assistants. He glanced at her worn coat and smirked. An unfamiliar woman, appearing like a housewife, who believes she's crafting the next mythology. Absurd. He didn't bother to open the manuscript. Instead, he raised it with 2 fingers, as if it were unclean, and dropped it into a recycling bin. His assistants chuckled, one saying, "Back to the kitchen, love." Emily crouched, recovered her pages, and departed silently. Her quietness wasn't surrender, it was resistance, a pledge to her story. Leaving Crownwell Press, Emily held her manuscript securely. A group of assistants trailed her to the elevator, their laughter bouncing off the hallway walls. 1. A young woman wearing a designer scarf remarked, "Hey housewife, perhaps stick to knitting next time. Writing is best left to the professionals." Another playfully imitated her walk, emphasizing the movement of her worn shoes, while a third took a photograph and shared it online with the caption, "Delusional wannabe attempts to enter the publishing world epic fail." The elevator doors shut, but their laughter persisted, clear and unwavering. Emily stood within, her reflection barely visible on the metallic surfaces, her expression calm but her fingers pressed tightly around her papers. Outside, a person on the sidewalk recognized her from the online post and gestured, saying to a companion, "That's the woman who believed she could create a bestseller." The urban environment appeared to taunt her, each look a reminder of her disappointment. Still, she continued walking, her quietness a defense, her narrative complete. Following the receipt of another rejection notice, Emily went to Pinnacle Books to make her appeal, her manuscript held securely. Clara Voss greeted her in the entrance hall, her red heels striking the floor with a sharp sound. "You again?" Clara said sharply, observing Emily's mended sweater. "I told you nobody desires your small magic story." She summoned coworkers, her tone derisive. "This is the one who believes she's the upcoming sensation, a single mother with a fairy tale." Laughter filled the air. One assistant discarded a crumpled coffee cup towards a bin close to Emily, and smiled when it brushed her arm. "Oops, thought you'd catch it with a spell," he remarked, winking at Clara. A security guard who overheard joined in, saying, "Time to go, lady, don't waste their time." Clara dismissed him with a wave, already turning away. "Stick to raising your kid, not writing flops," she called out, her words reverberating through the lobby with the sound of snickers. Emily departed, her gait resolute, her manuscript intact, yet the impact of their remarks lingered, a chilling dampness. Several months elapsed, and Emily's finances decreased. She reduced her food intake to purchase Lily new shoes, while her own coat became increasingly worn as winter's chill intensified. She was nearing the end of her resources when a letter arrived from Willow Tree Press, a small publisher struggling to stay afloat in a basement office. The owner, Margaret Cole, was direct. "The situation is precarious. Your book presents a risk, but I find it promising. We'll print 1,000 copies, conditional on using initials, ensuring anonymity. No one should know the author is a woman." Emily paused, her pen poised over the contract. She was reluctant to conceal her identity, but Lily needed school supplies, and the flat's rent was overdue. She signed as E.J. Brooks. Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was released in June, a subtle distribution in a few London bookshops. The cover was simple, just a drawing of an owl with glass wings, the title in a small font, understated and without promotion. Emily didn't anticipate much. She continued working, taking shifts at a laundromat to make ends meet, writing at the cafe when she had time. However, then something changed. A public school in Leeds sent her a letter, handwritten by a teacher named Ms. Patel. It read, "We read your book to our class. The children haven't stopped discussing Harry. They cried when he found the glass owl. Thank you." Emily clutched the letter, her throat constricted, and placed it with her other rejection notices. When Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was initially released, it was a quiet debut amidst a flurry of well-established titles. However, it quickly gained momentum. A bookshop in Glasgow organized a reading, and children filled the space, captivated as Harry confronted the Shadow Veil. Parents shared accounts of nightly readings, their voices hushed with wonder. "My daughter hadn't engaged with a book in years. Now she refuses to put Harry Potter and the Glass Owl down." By August, London's biggest bookstore saw a line extending out the door, with children holding copies and reciting Harry's spells as if they were a hidden language. A video that became widely shared online featured a boy in Sydney imitating the glass owl's flight, his cardboard wings flapping energetically. News publications described it as a sensation arising unexpectedly. Emily's World, Hogwarts's candlelit halls, the owl's shimmering prophecy, was more than just a story. It provided a sense of belonging for those often disregarded. The book gained widespread recognition, each copy reflecting her unwavering spirit. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, acknowledging the world's discovery of her. News of the book's popularity quickly circulated. A teacher in Manchester read excerpts aloud, and her students created drawings of Harry's wand, affixing them to their desks. A librarian in Bristol placed an order for 10 additional copies following disputes among children vying for the sole existing copy. A blogger, identified as Katie, a young person, shared a quote online. "The boy who wasn't chosen, chose himself." It received 100 likes, then 1,000, then 10,000. By September, bookshops were unable to maintain sufficient inventory. Parents described it as magical. Children claimed it as their own. A photograph circulated widely online, depicting a girl in a hospital bed, clutching Harry Potter, smiling for the first time in weeks. Emily viewed it on a library computer and wiped her eyes, her heart full. By autumn, Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was no longer simply a book, it was a cultural phenomenon. Schools throughout Britain designated it required reading. Researchers observed a remarkable shift. Children who previously showed little interest in reading eagerly finished Harry's story. A Paris library reported wait lists extending for months, with teenagers drawing the Glass Owl in their notebooks. In Chicago, a community center hosted a themed event, where families dressed as wizards, their laughter resonating through the streets. Social media platforms were filled with shared quotes. "The boy who was not initially selected ultimately asserted himself." Artwork appeared on bedroom walls, and phrases were permanently marked on wrists. A Tokyo newsstand sold out within hours. The clerk remarked, "It's like Harry is real." Emily's narrative had cast a spell, its influence extending across borders, giving a voice to those who were unheard. Bookstores requested additional printings, their shelves emptied, as readers sent a large number of letters to Willow Tree Press. Demands for more Harry were constant. The world wasn't simply reading, it was experiencing her dream, and the audience felt each triumph personally. 3 months following its release, the book became incredibly popular. It reached the bestseller lists initially in the UK, then in America and subsequently in Japan. News outlets proclaimed headlines, with considerable intrigue surrounding author E.J. Brooks's reimagining of fantasy. Bookstores experienced sellout conditions, placing reprint orders numbering in the thousands. Willow Tree Press, rescued from bankruptcy, relocated to a more suitable office. Margaret Cole contacted Emily, her voice trembling, stating, "We're printing 1 million copies." "1 million? Who are you?" Emily chuckled quietly, still wearing her worn coat, replying, "Just a mom who enjoys telling stories." As winter approached, Harry Potter and the Glass Owl became a source of hope. Marketers and deli shops organized midnight releases, with children chanting Harry's name under lantern light. A Brazilian orphanage shared a story of children pooling coins to purchase a shared copy, reading by flashlight after curfew. Numerous fan letters were sent to Willow Tree Press, including drawings of Hogwarts, poems about the Glass Owl, and stories of overcoming bullies, inspired by Harry. A London theater adapted the story, selling out weeks in advance, with the audience weeping as Harry's wand lit the stage. Critics who initially dismissed the work now acknowledged its merit, with one reviewer stating that Brooks had created a myth possessing an enduring quality. The book's impact extended beyond the written word, inspiring bravery and igniting imaginations. From Moscow to Mexico City, readers displayed owl pins, a subtle reference to Emily's universe. Her narrative overcame skepticism, its popularity a recognition she did not actively pursue, and the audience reveled in its brilliance. The National Literary Gala, the publishing world's equivalent of the Oscars, took place at the Savoy Hotel, filled with crystal chandeliers and formal black tie attire. Emily received an invitation, not as a typical attendee, but as the guest of honor. She nearly declined to attend. Lily was suffering from a cold, and the train ticket to central London was costly, but Margaret urged her to go, sending a ticket and a note that read, "You deserve this." Emily chose to wear a plain linen dress, pale blue in color, which she had purchased from a charity shop for a $5. The shoes were the familiar, well-worn pair, her hair loose and slightly disheveled. She carried her notebook, prepared for any sudden inspiration during the train ride. The gala presented a spectacle of tailored suits and glittering gowns, the atmosphere heavy with champagne and self-importance. Emily entered discreetly, her invitation clutched firmly, initially unnoticed by the attendees. She positioned herself near a pillar, observing editors and agents exchange greetings, their laughter reminiscent of the Crownwell office. Martin Hale was present, networking while holding a glass of whiskey, his slicked-back hair reflecting the light. Clara Voss, representing Pinnacle Books, commanded attention in a red dress, casually dismissing a waiter with a gesture. Simon Trent, the Regent House agent, spoke proudly of his newest acquisition, his voice audible above the general conversation. They did not notice Emily as she passed, her linen dress seeming understated amidst their elegant attire. She greeted several publishers with a handshake, her grip steady but kind. Martin Hale casually touched her hand, his gaze already searching for someone of greater significance. He offered a greeting, stating, "Nice to meet you," without inquiring about her name, and concluded with, "Enjoy the evening." Clara Voss responded with a strained smile, quietly remarking to an assistant, "Who's that? Some blogger?" Simon Trent remained engrossed in his phone, not acknowledging her at all. Emily offered a courteous nod, her expression calm, and proceeded. She didn't require their validation. She had come for the children who adored Harry, for Lily, for the narrative that continued to endure. A palpable excitement filled the room as the host, a BBC presenter known for his smooth delivery, stepped onto the stage. "Tonight, we celebrate the literary world's most accomplished talents," he began, his smile radiant. But he continued, noting that one name had eclipsed all others. A debut novel, published under initials, had resonated with readers worldwide. It had revolutionized storytelling, provided children with a role model, and rescued a publisher from financial hardship. The audience shifted expectantly, murmuring, "Could it possibly be E.J. Brooks? Here?" Martin Hale straightened his tie, a smirk directed at Clara Voss. "Likely an Oxbridge graduate pretending to be modest," he remarked. Clara acknowledged him with a roll of her eyes. The host's voice increased in volume. "Please welcome the author of the decade's best-selling novel, the woman who created an entire world for millions of children, Emily Brooks." The ballroom became still. Glasses tapped, breathing paused. Emily advanced, her linen dress reflecting the light, her well-worn shoes making no sound on the polished floor. Strands of hair remained tangled, and her notebook was held beneath her arm. Yet, her eyes, steady, warm, and resolute, commanded the attention of everyone present. She ascended the stage, each step carefully placed, as if Hogwarts itself provided support. Martin Hale's whiskey spilled from his hand, staining his shoes. Clara Voss's red dress appeared to constrict, her face losing color. Simon Trent's phone fell onto the table, his earlier claim overlooked. The audience was quiet, a multitude of astonished expressions as Emily arrived at the podium. She placed her notebook down, her fingers lightly touching the aged cover, and gazed out at the room. When she spoke, her voice was distinct and measured, resembling an incantation being spoken. "You dismissed the story before you proceeded to the next page. Now the entire world is reading it." The room fell silent. Emily did not elevate her tone, nor did she direct accusations. She found no need to. Her words resonated as undeniable truths, precise and absolute. "I wrote Harry Potter and the Glass Owl for my daughter, for children who feel invisible, for anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. You didn't see it, you didn't have to. The children did, they found Harry and he found them." She paused, her gaze sweeping the front row. Martin, Clara, Simon, all frozen. "This isn't about me, it's about a boy who chose himself, and the millions who chose him back." As Emily spoke from the gala stage, the crowd's silence broke into murmurs of awe. A children's librarian, positioned towards the rear, was the first to rise, applauding with great enthusiasm. "My students read Harry Potter nightly," she exclaimed, her voice filled with emotion. "They've begun writing their own stories thanks to you." The room shifted, faces expressing surprise, as others echoed her sentiment. A bookseller who had exhausted their stock in a few hours, and a parent whose previously timid son now embodied Harry's bravery. Emily's narrative had created a world so detailed it felt tangible, Harry's wand flickering under starlight, the glass owl's wings gleaming with mysteries. Her ability wasn't merely proficiency, it was transformation, converting sorrow into optimism. The applause intensified, a surge of admiration, as publishers who had disregarded her now rapidly wrote her name down, recognizing they had overlooked a brilliant talent. Emily remained there, her linen dress a focal point, her understated resilience more impactful than their applause. The applause began gradually, a gentle undulation that built into a powerful surge, shaking the chandeliers. It was more than mere courtesy, it was heartfelt and genuine. Emily moved from the stage, her dress flowing, and returned to her position beside the pillar. Behind the curtain, the gala was filled with discussion of Harry Potter and the Glass Owl. A critic, standing close to the bar, who had previously expressed doubts, confessed, "I read it last week and couldn't stop reading it." He continued, "The way Harry confronts the shadow veil. It's not just a story, it's a reflection for every child who's experienced feelings of isolation." A young author held her signed copy, telling a friend, "It's as if Emily understood my childhood, the bullies, the dreams, and transformed them into something magical." The book's world felt vibrant, Hogwarts halls resounding with spells, the Glass Owl's prophecy permeating every page, children in Tokyo dressed as Harry for Halloween, parents in New York reading it aloud, their voices breaking at the conclusion. Its language had initiated book clubs, inspired fan art, and even led to a school play in Dublin. Emily's story resonated deeply, its enchantment touching hearts across the globe. Attendees noticed her near the pillar, transformed from an unknown individual into an author whose writing had reshaped perception. During the gala, while Emily stood by her pillar, the book's reputation intensified. A bookseller confided in a critic, speaking with conviction, "I've sold thousands of books, but Harry Potter, it's truly exceptional. Children read it as if it were essential." On the other side of the room, a teacher described how her class constructed a cardboard Hogwarts, their faces glowing with pride. Enthusiasts had started a worldwide campaign, Read Like Harry, prompting libraries to increase their fantasy selections for children. Passages from the book, such as Harry's duel with the Frost Wraith and the Owl's whispered prophecy, were recited in classrooms, cafes, and even parliaments. A UN delegate confessed it influenced her speech on hope. Emily's impact resonated far beyond recognition. It was a transformative power, redefining perspectives on courage, loss, and love. From Cape Town, readers shared videos, celebrating with dances to Harry's theme, while New York's Times Square displayed the book's cover. The murmurings of the audience shifted to awe, their gaze fixed on Emily, now perceived as a mythmaker in a linen dress, her triumph a shared global victory. The host struggled to proceed, but their words fell on deaf ears. Attention remained on Emily, whispers circulating. "Is that her? She's E.J. Brooks? She authored that book?" Martin Hale slumped into his chair, his face ashen. Clara Voss held her clutch tightly, her smile vanished. Simon Trent looked at his phone, as if willing the moment to disappear. By morning, the consequences arrived quickly. Crownwell Press, Martin Hale's source of pride, encountered a public relations crisis. Blogs resurrected the recycling bin incident, and readers overwhelmed social media. Crownwell passed on Harry Potter?
Bilem hale.
The board reduced his position to junior editor, his office relocated to a cubicle. The reputation of Clara Voss's pinnacle books suffered a significant blow when a leaked email revealed her No Women note. Authors departed, and her newest fantasy series failed, derisively labeled No Magic Here. Simon Trent's agency experienced a loss of clients following his boast about dismissing Emily's diary entries. His letterhead, embossed in gold, held no value now. His workspace was covered with manuscripts that hadn't sold. The publishing world reacted as Emily's triumph became apparent. Simon Trent, the agent who had previously dismissed Emily's diary entries, observed his agency collapse swiftly. Prominent authors distanced themselves, pointing to his perceived lack of foresight, as bookstores declined to stock his clients' titles, prioritizing displays for Harry Potter. His gold-stamped letterhead became a target for online ridicule, with memes labeling it the man who missed magic. Clara Voss's professional life suffered a dramatic downturn following the viral spread of her No Women email. Pinnacle's share price decreased significantly, leading to her reassignment to editing cookbooks. her red dress now a source of regret. Even Martin Hale's reduction in role caused considerable distress. Rumors circulated among his colleagues regarding his mistake, and his electronic correspondence was flooded with negative feedback from readers. They had discarded Harry. Their pride had resulted in complete loss, their identities now minor references in Emily's celebrated story. Applause erupted as online platforms declared her the sovereign writer who crafted narratives with simplicity and honesty. Emily ignored the commotion. She was at the cafe, working on the next installment, her writing instrument moving while Lily played nearby. Willow Tree Press sent her a royalty payment. The prize provided enough for a larger apartment, a suitable bed for Lily, and a fresh notebook. She remained composed, silent in her triumph, and simply wrote, her story proving more resilient than their criticism. The world embraced Harry Porter, and Emily Brooks, the individual once dismissed as insignificant, evolved into a celebrated figure. This demonstrates the strength of a narrative that refuses to be silenced. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content. She experienced humiliation and was even detained directly within the VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport. Dressed in an old hoodie and worn-out sneakers, she appeared strikingly ordinary amidst a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. This type of passenger doesn't typically travel on a private jet, a security officer stated coldly. She was held, under scrutinizing glances, until the private jet of her billionaire husband arrived. Rosebridge Jet Terminal presented an image of immense wealth, with its polished marble floors reflecting the light of expensive chandeliers, and its tarmac accommodating Gulfstreams and Louis Vuitton suitcases. This exclusive airport, where sapphire membership cards held greater significance than passports, resonated with the presence of tailored Armani suits, Louboutin heels, and the aroma of Tom Ford oud. The VIP lounge, designed as a lavish space of glass and velvet, catered exclusively to a select clientele, with staff in silk vests verifying access via platinum keycards. Past the lounge area, a private runway extended, its entrances secured for the wealthiest individuals. Claire Sutton entered the terminal, wearing a casual gray hoodie, faded sweatpants, and worn sneakers that made a soft sound on the marble flooring. At 30 years old, having grown up in a small, unassuming town, she had independently studied aerospace engineering while working as a mechanic, her life straightforward until she encountered Noah Sutton, the individual responsible for establishing Sutton Aerospace as a worldwide leader. A book and a water bottle were inside the small backpack she carried, her only belongings following a connecting domestic flight. The lounge's stairs seemed to divide her, as if sensing an approaching storm. Claire felt like an imperfection in the terminal's gleaming appearance, her backpack a disruption to the exclusive environment. A security officer, Victor Hayes, moved toward her, his navy uniform immaculate, his badge shining. "This lounge is exclusively for private jet passengers," he stated, his voice drawing attention. A lounge attendant, wearing a $2,000 Gucci blazer, chuckled, bending towards their colleague. They likely gained entry searching for employment. Amusement spread through the lounge, passengers concealing smiles with perfectly shaped hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes fixed, her backpack over one shoulder. She had come to meet Noah, the man whose empire she'd secretly assisted in creating. A wave of frustration rippled through the onlookers, their emotions tightening at the dismissive behavior of these officials, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's gentle demeanor. The jeering grew louder, a harsh sound led by the terminal's influential members. Vanessa Klein, the lounge manager, stepped forward, her platinum blonde hair flowing over a form-fitting Versace dress, her red lipstick a vivid accent to her cool expression. At 29 years old, having grown up in Miami's affluent circles, she was known for maintaining strict standards of admittance. Claire's hoodie earned a scoff. "We're unable to verify your identity or your reason for being in the high-security zone," the officer stated, her voice crisp and firm. The passengers responded with laughter that reverberated against the glass walls. Vanessa, with a flick of her hair, released a cloud of Chanel perfume, a fragrance Claire knew Noah found unpleasant. Claire's fingers gripped her backpack, her expression composed, while the audience's anger escalated. their hearts racing at this direct challenge, Vanessa's confidence appearing sharp and cold. The criticism intensified, becoming a deliberate and unified attack on Claire's presence. Victor Hayes approached, his badge reflecting light, and indicated a side door. "Your baggage has not cleared VIP screening," he stated, his voice steady but not unkind. "Please proceed to the holding area for those suspected of making false statements." The crowd applauded, their Rolexes catching the light as they gestured for her to leave. A passenger wearing a $6,000 Brioni suit exclaimed, "You don't seem like someone who owns a private jet ticket." Amusement rippled through the group, with passengers bumping shoulders. A receptionist whispered, "She doesn't appear to be a tourist." Another commented, "That hoodie looks like it could be stolen, and she has the nerve to enter here?" The remarks felt like a heavy blow, each word a painful strike against Claire's quietness. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts aching for Claire, deeply upset by this group's persistent harshness. The travelers' disdain became sharp as Claire stood in the VIP lounge, their taunts a deliberate attack intended to undermine her resolve. Several technology leaders in $8,000 Seville row suits assembled close to the velvet sofas, their words a spiteful blend. "She's a mark on Rosebridge's reputation," one remarked, gesturing with a platinum fountain pen in Claire's direction, highlighting her worn sneakers. Returning to the budget terminal, one individual brandished a black Amex card, exclaiming, "Her backpack appears to be from a flea market." The audience's laughter was loud, employees glancing at each other, their Rolexes reflecting the light. A private equity mogul declared, "She's an insult to every jet parked here." The jeers felt like a severe judgment, each word a sharp blow against Claire's composed demeanor. Noah's jet was visible on the tarmac beyond the glass, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing, indignant at this planned injustice, their fury intense and ready to challenge the elite's pride. The staff's involvement aggravated the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A receptionist, Clara Holt, wearing a tailored blazer, approached, her voice laced with disdain. "Miss, the general terminal is that way," she stated, gesturing towards a concealed door, her smirk reflected by surrounding passengers. "We don't allow such guests in the VIP lounge," she added, which drew laughter from the group. Clara, 26 years old and raised in New Jersey, took pride in her role as a gatekeeper. The group's approval felt like a powerful current, their arrogance a very public rejection. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger surged, their hearts racing at this form of institutional rejection, their fury burning against Rosebridge's sanctity. Vanessa Klein's criticism became pointed, a deliberate attempt to embarrass Claire in front of the lounge's most distinguished members. "You're not just out of place, you're a source of embarrassment," she stated, her Versace dress catching the light as she indicated Claire's sweatpants. Sutton Aerospace would not permit such behavior, she insisted, within their facilities. Her companions laughed, the sound punctuated by the clicking of their Mont Blanc pens, their gazes shifting to Claire's backpack. Vanessa remarked, "She's a charity case, not a jet passenger," her voice carrying enough volume to hush the surrounding quiet sounds. The passengers responded with approval, their disapproval feeling overwhelming, their hushed tones filled with discontent. "She's a fake," they muttered. Claire's hazel eyes glowed with contained anger, but her smile remained steady, a defense against the feeling of being let down. The pavement shimmered outside the windows, but the lounge's disapproval felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger surged, their feelings of sorrow for Claire evident, fueled by the manager's deception revealed. The passengers' resentment reached a high point, their voices a harsh and bitter wave. A technology executive in a $5,000 Canali suit leaned forward, his voice sharp and dismissive. "She's insignificant, likely here seeking a passage," he remarked, pointing at Claire's sweatpants. "Observe that backpack. Did she retrieve it from a refuse container?" His associates chuckled, displaying their platinum cards. A socialite declared, "She's an embarrassment to whoever let her in." Laughter echoed, each insult a dagger aimed at Claire's heart. A woman standing close by with her daughter murmured, "She's likely someone's housekeeper." Her daughter chuckled, adding, "Or a stowaway." The audience's anger surged, their hearts with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperate for the truth to shatter the elite's lies. The lounge staff's disapproval became obvious, their behavior a public embarrassment intended to entertain the other passengers. A senior concierge, Richard Tate, addressed Claire close to the glass reception desk, his silk vest immaculate, his tone condescending. "Miss, this lounge is exclusively for verified jet passengers," he stated, ensuring the surrounding people could hear. He indicated her hoodie with a gesture, his smirk echoed by the nearby employees. "Rosebridge rarely permits such straightforwardness," he stated, which elicited laughter from those present. The group's acceptance felt overwhelming, their confidence a stark display. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes steady, but the lounge's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their fury burning against the terminal's integrity. Claire remained silent, her eyes dry, her arms holding her backpack, a plain bag containing the book she's read on her flight, a gift for Noah. She was led to the isolation room, a cold space of glass and steel, its walls mirroring the lounge luxury. The door closed behind her, with Victor Hayes standing watch, his badge representing her confinement. The passengers' murmurs followed her. "There lies a suffocating tide. She's a con artist." Claire's hazel eyes remained steady, her composure a quiet blaze. The audience's rage peaked, their hearts breaking for Claire, their fury a fire ready to consume the terminal's sanctity. The passengers' cruelty peaked as they spread vicious rumors, their voices a venomous storm echoing through the lounge. A hedge fund manager in a $9,000 Loro Piana suit leaned forward, his voice loud and cutting. He suggested she was a fraud, possibly having secured her place in the lounge through bribery, his friends agreeing, their cufflinks gleaming. Her marriage was also fabricated, simply a narrative to deceive Sutton. Another declared, raising his voice, "She's a con artist. Noah has been tricked." Derisive laughter erupted, each statement a painful blow to Claire. Employees shared falsehoods, their accusations multiplying rapidly. "She's after his wealth." Claire touched her backpack, maintaining a calm expression, though the group's malicious gossip felt overwhelming. The audience's anger surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their outrage a powerful force seeking to expose the falsehoods of those in power. The sound of a jet engine broke the lounge's quiet atmosphere as a black Gulfstream G800 landed on the private runway, one of fewer than 20 such runways globally. The aircraft's polished exterior shone, its engines creating a loud noise that stopped the surrounding conversation. A VIP golf cart quickly moved towards the isolation zone, its tires squealing on the tarmac. Noah Sutton disembarked, his white shirt rolled up, his dark sunglasses glinting, projecting an aura of intensity. At 35, having grown up in Seattle, he had transformed Sutton Aerospace into a global empire, incorporating Rosebridge Jet Terminal through a corporate restructuring. He took off his sunglasses, revealing gray eyes as sharp as steel, and proceeded into the isolation room. "Why is my wife being held here?" His voice held no volume, yet it resonated with force. A wave of emotion rippled through the onlookers, their frustration giving way to expectation. Noah's revelation a beacon in the tension. Victor Hayes faltered, his official identification providing no protection. "I wasn't aware she—" Noah interrupted, his expression unwavering. "She has nothing to demonstrate. I am her confirmation of travel." The atmosphere became still, Vanessa Klein's Versace dress appearing deflated, her crimson lipstick a sharp contrast against her complexion. Noah opened the exit, approached Claire, and clasped her hand. "Are you weary?" he inquired, his voice gentle yet resolute. The aircraft was prepared. "Let's proceed." Claire smiled, her hazel eyes radiating warmth, her hoodie a subtle adornment. The travelers' cufflinks appeared less brilliant, their expressions strained with surprise. The crowd's sense of accomplishment grew, their hearts pounding as Noah's words altered the lounge's influence. Noah addressed the airport manager, his voice composed but firm. "I intended to maintain my stake in Rosebridge for an additional 2 years, he stated, "but today I have revised that decision." He hesitated, his gray eyes surveying the lounge. Detaining anyone for not wearing a suit in a gathering of those who believe themselves divine seemed inappropriate. Vanessa Klein recoiled, her Chanel perfume a sharp contrast to the situation. Noah's expression turned intense. I'm not merely the largest investor in this airport, I possess 70% ownership of Rosebridge Jet Terminal. A chill permeated the lounge. The receptionist almost dropped her iPad, and the head of security paled. The audience erupted, their anger shifting to astonishment as Noah's actions began to dismantle the deception that had restricted Claire. The repercussions were swift, a judgment conveyed without a sound. Noah addressed Victor Hayes, his voice sharp and decisive. You held the one I travel with, he stated, your time here is over, 5 minutes remaining. Victor's uniform seemed to shrink, his professional life collapsing. Noah then confronted Vanessa Klein, his gaze unwavering. Your department's screening procedures? Discontinued. Access is permanently denied to all Sutton Group locations. Vanessa's Versace dress offered no protection. Her standing served as a warning. Noah addressed Clara Holt, the receptionist. Your keycards have been disabled. Please clear your workspace. Clara appeared stunned, her role as gatekeeper now exposed. The onlooker's sense of disappointment shifted to jubilation, Claire's success affirmed by her husband's considerable influence. The isolation room felt dominated by Noah Sutton, his voice sharp and decisive, silencing the space enclosed by glass walls. You dared to detain Claire Sutton, the only soul worthy of this terminal, he declared, his gray eyes radiating a controlled fury. The validity of your badges, your protocols were irrelevant in the face of her truth. He presented a sleek tablet displaying a series of canceled agreements. Victor Hayes' security contracts, Vanessa Klein's management deals, and the staff's lounge privileges, all rescinded by Sutton Aerospace's board. Your names are removed from global aviation, he announced, his eyes focused on Victor. You have lost more than jobs, you have lost your futures. The audience reacted with shocked gasps, their empires collapsing under his direction. Claire stood beside him, her gray hoodie glowing, her triumph confirmed by Noah's consistent strength. The audience cheered, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice defeated the elite's pride. Noah's gaze turned to the woman who had spoken, her daughter standing close behind. I heard you refer to her as a maid, he said, his voice slightly firm. I'll demonstrate the power even a so-called maid can possess, sufficient to result in your permanent membership cancellation. He retrieved his phone, activated it with a single button, and issued the command. The memberships of all individuals in Lounge 1A from the previous 2 hours were to be terminated. No justification was required. The socialite's platinum card became invalid, her standing negated. The tech mogul, who had previously ridiculed Claire's backpack, was led away, his agreements rescinded. Those passengers who had laughed concealed their Rolexes, their power diminished. The observers felt their hearts pound, their anger evolving into pride, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the lounge's prominent members. The downfall of the elite was a spectacle, their arrogance shattered under Noah's command. Vanessa Klein stumbled back, her Versace dress a mockery, her reputation a cautionary tale among the staff. Victor Hayes' badge was confiscated, his decades of service null, his escorts pushing him toward the service exit. Clara Holt's gatekeeping empire plummeted, her scorn a public wound, her belongings scattered. The hedge fund manager's deals collapsed, his slander exposed his lies. Those who'd flicked pens concealed their cufflinks, their memberships revoked. The staff who'd sneered were dismissed, their careers terminated. The socialite who'd whispered faced ostracism, her reputation diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes unwavering. The audience's hearts resonated with emotion, their anger shifting to admiration. Claire's victory and Noah's anger shook the world's wealthiest in the terminal's esteemed halls. The terminal's hierarchy collapsed under Noah's direction. A thorough review revealed its deep-seated flaws. He addressed the airport's operations chief, his tone sharp and direct amidst the lounge's lavish surroundings. Your screening system is unacceptable, he stated, his gray eyes unwavering. Every procedure that caused distress to my wife is nullified, effective immediately. He activated his phone, and a wave of alerts flooded the staff's devices. Contracts terminated, permissions removed, entire departments dissolved. The socialite's daughter wept, her mother's membership a relic of a fallen empire. The tech mogul's jet remained on the tarmac, his influence non-existent. The receptionist who had laughed was escorted out, her iPad now inactive. Claire stood beside Noah, her backpack a silent declaration of her truth, her victory a bright spot in the terminal's fading light. The audience's hearts lifted, their anger shifting to triumph. Noah's fury a powerful force that washed away Rosebridge's arrogance. The details of Claire's history remained unknown, whether to the staff, Vanessa, or the passengers. When she was 20, she had rebuilt aircraft engines while studying late into the night, using her earnings to pay for textbooks. At 25, she encountered Noah at an aerospace expo, her understated intelligence captivating him amidst a crowd of showy personalities. Their marriage, a private ceremony on a Maine cliff, was founded on love, not financial resources. Vanessa's perfume, the staff's keycards, the passengers' suits, held no comparison to the resilience embodied by the backpack Claire carried. She now stood within the terminal, her rubber band a reminder of her integrity, her silence a consuming fire that exposed their deceit. Claire entered the Gulf Stream, still wearing her hoodie, holding Noah's hand. Her reflection appeared on the terminal's glass wall, portraying a composed woman passing 2 rows of people with lowered heads. The aircraft moved ahead, its engines creating a visible display of strength, leaving the lounge hushed. The chandeliers decreased in brightness, the marble floors no longer echoing with dominance. Noah turned to Claire, his gray eyes filled with concern. "Are you all right?" She responded with a nod, her hazel eyes following the curve of his smile. As the jet ascended, the autumn light diminished, revealing a line of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval, their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of their previous treatment of her. She had experienced deep shame even being held. Within the exclusive VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport, she appeared unassuming in an old hoodie and worn sneakers. Her appearance stood in stark contrast to the surroundings, a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. The revelation arrived with undeniable force, and it couldn't be ignored. Everyone involved understood a crucial lesson. True authority isn't defined by appearance, it's established by presence, and the impact will be immediate. If you enjoyed this narrative, please like, share, and subscribe for similar stories. We'd love to hear from you. If you were Claire, what actions would you take?